won't say praise God because we're not in church, but usually when we start an event in Canada, I notice that we say something they call the land acknowledgement. So it's a different type of land here, and I just want us to recognize that type of presence here. I want to ask that God bless the conversation here. God be with us, and in our deliberations, let him take absolute control. Amen.
Thank you so much. Can we please appreciate her? Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now I'm going to call Mr. Charles Zach. Yes, because he promised to lead the anthem. And so, technical, please come on up. Technical, please. Okay.
All right, would everybody please rise if you're able? We don't have the flag, do we? Oh, here we go. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And so we're going to go on to the land acknowledgement, and I will get Monsieur Jonas Samoa to lead us with the French land acknowledgement.
Nous reconnaissons que les lettres sur lesquelles nous sommes rassemblés sont les territoires traditionnels de nombreuses nations, y compris les Mississauga, les Crédits, les Anishinaabe, les Chippewas, les Haudenosaunee et les Wendat. L'Ontario abrite une riche diversité de nations autochtones, tant sur le plan historique qu'actuel, qui continuent de protéger et d'honorer leurs relations avec la terre. Nous reconnaissons la présence durable de tous les peuples des Premières Nations, des Métis et des Inuits, ainsi que leurs liens spirituels et culturels avec cette terre. C'est avec un profond respect que nous honorons les traditions et les contributions de longue date des communautés autochtones qui prennent soin de cette terre depuis des générations. Nous reconnaissons également les contributions et les sacrifices des Canadiens noirs, dont la présence sur ce territoire remonte au premier jour de la colonisation et dont l'histoire est intimement liée à celle des peuples autochtones. Depuis les premiers jours de l'esclavage jusqu'à la lutte continue pour la justice, l'équité et la reconnaissance, les Canadiens noirs ont contribué de manière significative au tissu culturel, social et économique de notre communauté. Nous nous engageons à œuvrer à la réconciliation, à la justice et à la compréhension en reconnaissant à la fois l'héritage et la réalité contemporaine du racisme systématique et de la colonisation. Nous sommes solidaires des communautés autochtones et noires dans les quêtes d'équité et d'inclusion.
Merci beaucoup. So for everyone that does not speak French, everything Jean Asamoah said is true. So it's my pleasure to welcome Miss Nena Uboma to read the land acknowledgement in English.
So good evening, everyone. So we acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. Ontario is the home to a rich diversity of indigenous nations, both historically and in the present day, who continue to protect and honor their relationship to the land. We recognize the enduring presence of all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people, and their spiritual and cultural connections to the land. It is with deep respect that we honor the long-standing traditions and contributions of the indigenous communities who have cared for this land for generations. We also acknowledge the contributions and sacrifices of Black Canadians, whose presence on this land dates back to the early days of settlement and whose history is intertwined with that of indigenous people. From the earliest days of enslavement and through the ongoing fight for justice, equity, and recognition, Black Canadians have significantly contributed to the cultural, social, and economic fabric of our communities. We commit ourselves to work towards reconciliation, justice, and understanding that by recognizing both the legacy and the contemporary reality of systematic racism and colonization, we stand in solidarity with indigenous and Black communities in the pursuit of equity and inclusion.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And for the moment that we're waiting for, and really a pleasure to welcome all the amazing candidates. I hope your campaigns are going on well. We're still expecting more people, but imagine meeting how many families there? Maybe about 20 families in one shot. Isn't that amazing? Beautiful. Again, special thanks to our pastor again. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Now, I will be calling everybody on the platform, but before I do that, I think I will call the moderator, Otto. So this young man is our present and our future. It represents our present and our future. And thank you to all the young men in the house. I tip my hat for Tomiwa Ademijo. Thank you so much for showing up. Where are your friends, guys? Really? What's the name of your brother? Gucci, thank you so much for coming. And to all the adults, I don't know where your children are, but you should have brought them. Oh, nice to see you, Pastor Saul. Nice to have you come join us. So, I said I was going to bring them up to the podium, but you would do that now, okay? So I'm just going to hand over to this young man. There you go.
Well, thank you all for being here. First of all, I just want to thank God for being able to moderate this, amazing conversation. Pastor Demidun for, hosting us. I appreciate it. And obviously Lady Abba for giving me the opportunity to moderate with such amazing and esteemed, gentlemen and gentlelady, here today. Just a few things before we bring everyone up. Just house rules for some people. Who wants to be that person that their phone rings when everyone's talking? If you want to be that person, just say aye. Okay, so you can at least turn off your phone, put it on airplane mode, or just put it on silent, whichever option works best for you. Second thing is, really appreciate silences when the people who are running are speaking. And in terms of some ground rules, just when everyone's having a conversation, we're all adults, grown people here, just no interruptions, right? I think some of the things were sent earlier, time limits, just adhere to your time limits and, respectful language. We're not here. There's not a boxing ring. If you want to become Muhammad Ali, there's a certain ring for that. But here's not the space for that. But yeah, with that being said, I would like to invite all the speakers who are on here. I know I've seen a couple. Not sure if everyone's here yet, but as people continue to troop in, we'll invite everyone. I'm not sure if maybe Lady Abba wants to give some assistance to who came. I think there was some instruction about time. If you came early, you would go first. So awesome, Miss. I'm listening. Shabazz. So as you're being called, please, we just like to sit you in the order that you came. So Mr. Zach, thank you. Mr. Shabazz, thank you. Mr. Cronin as well. Awesome. Oh, I think you're. Yes, yes, yes.
Just a quick one. We are streaming.
Yes.
It's been live streamed. Okay. So you can just tell them they can share to the people. Just go to RCCG Milton THOD. No, RCC.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Also, just so you know, we are streaming. So you can go to RCCG THOD online. We are live. So not only are you speaking to folks in the room here, but you're also speaking to an audience online. So just keep that in consideration. Awesome. So before we continue, I would just ask for someone to just help keep time. So we have the limits. Maybe Lady Abba will do that. And I would like us to start in the order that the individuals came. I think there was some information sent earlier about, opening statements, and then before we get into questions and so on. So, awesome. So we have, sorry, let me make sure I'm not butchering anybody's name. I believe the PPC candidate came in first, and with that, you can go first. Yeah, so we have 2-minute time limit, just to allow for time for everyone to go around. And don't worry, your time hasn't started yet. So if we're keeping time, as soon as he starts, Lady Abba will let you know, and then once the time is up, she'll signify as well. Awesome.
Hello, everybody. Miltonians and Burlingtonians. My name is Charles Zach. I live in Burlington. Actually, I was born in Burlington. I've lived in Burlington all my life, and I don't plan on going, and I'll probably end up staying here for good. But having said that, it's a little morbid. But I'm running today for various reasons, but let me give a little background about myself. So I am not new to politics. I was heavily vested in the Conservative Party for a long time, for about 25 years, when the riding was one big riding in Halton, and then it was cut down into Burlington and Milton, and then into Oakville, North Burlington, and Milton and Burlington, and now Burlington. So I've been around for a while, and people say, so why did you leave the Conservatives? And I said, well, I haven't really left the Conservatives. The Conservatives left me. I am small c conservative, and there's no bones about that. That's the way I live my life. But that's why I went with the PPC, because they seem to align more with my values and principles. So my past is I've got various things that I did in the past. I'm recently retired. I spent a lot of time as a government lobbyist, so I have a lot of insights into the machinations of our government at various levels, federal, provincial, and municipal. I wish I could say that a lot of it was good. Unfortunately, when you're that close to the campfire, you see a lot of bad things. And that's another reason that I'm running, because we can't let this continue on. It's not good for the country, and it seems that none of the parties are representing the people that are electing them anymore. That's my view. So, as I said, I've lived in Burlington all my life, and I've seen a profound change in Burlington and in Milton. Is that a time thing? Okay. And it's changed, and it hasn't changed for the better. We've seen rising crime and homelessness and affordability issues and everything else. I don't know what's going on, but this is not the Canada that I grew up in. I have children, and I want to make sure that they have the same opportunities as I do, or I had. Anyway, so that's another reason I'm running. So I don't see the change that I want to see coming from the mainstream parties, and that's why I'm running. I want to represent Milton and Burlington.
5 seconds.
Not the executive or some leader's fantasy. So thank you very much for your attention. God bless you.
Thank you. We have our independent. Yes. Awesome.
Good evening. Is it working? Can you hear me? 30 seconds. Sure. Is it working? Is it working?
Maybe give it back to him.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shabazz Khan. Many of you know. I'm running as an independent candidate from Milton East and Halton Hills South. And I hear your concerns. First thing is first, and I do hear that parents are losing their rights. I'm just going to jump right into why am I running, right? So, and I do concur that parents must have the right to decide and guide their child's identity, values, future, and beliefs, not the government or politics. And this community needs independent representation in Ottawa, and why shouldn't you when you're blessed with wisdom, knowledge, vigor, grit, not only to raise your own concerns, but to help build a better life for all Canadians, right? And then there's a matter of healthcare. So I'm gonna bring you some facts. 74,000 people have died from 2018 up until now. They paid their taxes, yet they did not get the healthcare that they deserved. Our healthcare is in ICU itself. Now some people are gonna argue that is whether provincial or federal, but it has to be accounted for. And at federal level, there are changes that need to be done. Let's get into another dire issue, which is cost of living. It's a real shame and a dilemma that people are actually suffering, whether to pay rent or buy groceries, or to pay bills or buy food. So this is something that nobody should ever have to suffer. Is it not our social responsibility to help them? And more so, is it not our political responsibility to help them by having policies in federal level, making sure that that does not happen? On April 28th, this is the moment of truth. You guys have to vote because not only you, but your children will be affected by it. And the truth is, I do care for this beautiful country that we live in. I do care for this community, the society that we live in. I do care for every single one of you. And as proud Canadians that we are, it is our responsibility to have an account for these politicians who promise something and what they deliver. And that, my friends, is democracy.
5 seconds. Thank you.
Hello.
Awesome. So just want to reiterate that we're all here to kind of let the public in person and online why we're running. You want to get engagement from voters and folks to kind of show up and turn out and decide. So just keep that in mind as we're going on. You can go, sir.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me today. I recognize and acknowledge the deep cultural contributions, economic contributions that African, Caribbean, and Black community has given to this country. The reason I'm here today is because I work with Halton District School Board as their trustee, and I'm a member of Human Rights and Equity Advisory Committee. And in my position and my role, I work with a lot of families, and I see how our youth are suffering. I see that there is no support for student well-being and mental health. I know the racialized profiling, and I always speak out. I always stand up for that. And now, it is our chance to make a difference. We all know what NDP stands for. NDP is always about equality for every section of the society. NDP always says that all Canadians are equal. Nobody is superior to no one. So now, NDP has also come out with their economic policies, and those economic policies are in favor of Canadians. They have given us the dental coverage, which we never had. They have also fought for the pharmacare, and this is NDP. That's given us the pharmacare now, and unfortunately, the parliament was dissolved, and we don't have the pharmacare, and they have to fight for it again. And now, we are going to have the pharmacare, because what is the universal health care without the pharmacare? And also, they want to keep the cap on the rising costs of living. As your member of parliament from Burlington North and Milton West, West Milton, I will keep fighting for you, your rights, and also make sure that your voices are heard in the parliament. So please, trust me, because I've been teaching youth in the community for more than 20 years, creating leaders in our community, and thank you so much. If I'm done.
Thank you.
Hi. Is it good? Can you hear me?
Might need to take off.
I think that, yeah, I'm not feeling well, so I was just keeping. So my name is Muhammad Riasahi. I'm the Milton East, Halton Hill South NDP candidate. By profession, I'm a lawyer, and before lawyer, I was a teacher. So I was teaching in different schools in Toronto, Scarborough. So I understand, I know the struggles that families go through. We understand that the system is broken. We understand that the rent and the groceries and you know, the issues with affordability are out of our hands. And the solution is simple. You know, we cannot really rely on the people or the star candidates that we have relied on for past 10 years or maybe how long, you know. So this is the time to change. This is the time, you know, this is unprecedented time that we need to make those changes so that we can fight for our future, for the future of our kids. Like imagine like when people, like kids are going to school, not worrying, you know, about the food. You know, there should be, so NDP is the political party that would really represent and that would give the hope and all those things like pharmacare, the dental care. Imagine with 25 seats, NDP has achieved so much. And if we have, you know, more representations, we can push liberals and we can, you know, push them to, you know, do something which they have promised for so long and never delivered. So, you know, I would say, like, you know, liberals are, they would give you like all wonderful promises. They would be like really good to hear. And conservatives are all about like cutting. They would cut, nothing. They won't give you anything. And you know, if NDP is there in a reasonable, you know, representation, then definitely that would be the best service.
5 seconds left.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. So before we continue, one thing as a young person I love to acknowledge is sometimes the minorities in the groups and I'm happy that we have at least one, young person on here. But I think the other thing is at least having a woman in politics is something that we've not really seen in Canada a lot of. So I think with that being said, the next candidate.
Thank you. Is this working? Can you hear? Okay, here, I'll switch. Thanks a lot. Hi, everybody. My name is Christina, and I want to start by thanking my colleagues for actually coming tonight. It means a lot for people to come here and stand in front of the public and take questions. That's important. We're sticking our necks out, but that's the job, right? You got to sit in the hot seat sometimes, and it's important that you take note of the people who are here tonight and also the people who are not. So I'll ask you to just keep that in mind. I was born and raised here in Milton. I've lived here my whole life. I was initially a funeral director in my first career, and then I went back to school and became a lawyer. I have a small law practice on Main Street here in Milton, but I've worked for national law firms. I've worked for small boutique firms. I've been married for almost 28 years. I have 4 young adult children who are all going out into the world trying to find their own way in times that are fairly challenging. I didn't get into politics until I was about 40 years old. And that's when I ran for town council here in Milton, and I was successful in defeating a 23-year incumbent. And it was a shock to me even. But really what it was getting out and talking to people. And that's what I love most about all of my careers, particularly my career in politics. So I still remain on Milton Town Council. I'm serving my 2nd term. And when I was approached to run in this election, I had to think about it a little bit because I am not super partisan, right? At town council, there's no parties. We just vote the way we feel we need to vote to represent our constituents. But when I contemplated the challenging times that our country is facing, consequential times of existential questions, who would have thought that a few months ago or last year we'd be talking about Canada potentially being annexed by the United States, right? And it's just hyperbole from Donald Trump, granted, but I don't trust the man. And one of the reasons, that went really fast, and one of the reasons I decided to run was because I felt that I needed to stand up for my country, to stand up for my community, and to continue to advocate and represent for constituents the same way I do for my clients as a lawyer. So I look forward to the questions tonight. I will say in advance, I have to run off to another event like 8:15-ish, so I apologize if I have to duck out early, but I've left literature here. If you want to email me, you can ask me your questions directly as well.
5 seconds left.
Thank you so much.
So next we have, I think, the current MP for this riding, and I think the person got affected by the split that happened federally. But yeah, next candidate can go. Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Hi, everyone. My name is Adam Van Couverden. I'm the Member of Parliament for Milton, so I'm the incumbent on this side on the new riding of Burlington North, Milton West. I want to thank our hosts. Thank you, Pastor Lumide. Thank you, Arthur. You're doing a great job. Thank you, Dejasola and Sheldon and everybody who brought us together today. It's really, really wonderful to see some familiar faces. I've been to the House of David many times for Sunday Mass, and I love it here, and I promise to come back really soon because it's a very, very lively service, and I love it. So over the last 5.5 years and stuff, we've made some great changes and we've made some great progress, but a lot of that progress is under threat right now from the United States, but also from some different ideas here at home. So I want to give you an idea of why I'm running for my 3rd term here in Burlington North, Milton West. First of all, it's because we need the strongest economy in the G7. Our affordability is at risk with Donald Trump and these tariffs. We've got to stand up for ourselves. We've got to build a stronger economy, but we also need great jobs. And the best guy to do that is somebody who specializes in the economy. That's Mark Carney. He's the current Prime Minister, but he's also the leader of the Liberal Party, and he has got a great plan for Canada. On his first day on the job, he went ahead and he bought billions of dollars of U.S. Treasury with U.S. dollars, and he went over to France and he went over to the UK, and he instantly had a trump card, and he played that trump card. And what did Trump call the Prime Minister for weeks and weeks and weeks before that? He's calling him a governor. But we sent a governor to work, and that governor earned the respect of the United States, and then he started getting called the Prime Minister, which is the right term for Prime Minister Mark Carney. And that takes, thank you. That's economic acumen, that's experience, that's know-how, and it proves that Canada's playing chess, not checkers, like Donald Trump. So second of all is housing. I see a couple young people in the room. Housing's been a priority for me because I'm a co-op housing kid. I grew up in Chautauqua Co-op down in Oakville, Ontario, and we stopped building non-market housing in the 90s, and we got to get back to building non-market housing. I'm very proud of the fact that there are shovels in the ground, 3,500 units under construction right now across Canada. But we've got to keep our healthcare public and universal. I want you to be able to pay for when you go to the hospital with your health card, never your credit card. I want to make sure that you've got good local representation, somebody that you know, somebody that
5
you trust.
seconds left.
And when I go to Ottawa, I'll be bringing your voice there, not Ottawa's voice back. Thanks, everybody.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Is this working? Okay. Can I have a minute to sit up? I'm the rookie, so I need a speech. But I'm not picking up an offering. My name is Walter Hoffman from the People's Party of Canada. Thank you to the African Caribbean Council of Halton for inviting me. Really appreciate this. I would also like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for this opportunity. Amen. Amen. I was raised in Barrie, Ontario and married for over 40 years with 3 beautiful daughters. My beautiful wife, Wendy, is here tonight. I've only got 2 minutes, so please make it quick. Just say hello, Wendy. All right, all right. For most of my life, I worked from 6 a.m. in the morning and punched out at 6 p.m. at night to raise my family, pay the bills, and put a roof over our head. Hard work and faith in God is the Canadian way. I understand that. I've lived it. And I know the issues we face. We've already heard it mentioned tonight. Affordable housing, work placement, discrimination. In 2021, 5.8% of the population of Milton was African, but made up nearly half of Maplehurst Prison. I have a problem with that. Yes, we know the issues, but who will listen? Politicians make promises, but change their tune in office. Canadian tax-paying truckers spent thousands of dollars driving across the country in their trucks to share their concerns with someone in Ottawa. Instead of finding someone who would listen, they were arrested. Bank accounts were frozen. Ottawa imposed martial law and called us a fringe minority. Tax-paying Canadians, a fringe minority with unacceptable views. This attitude must stop. We need fresh blood, people who will listen and represent the people who voted for them and put them in office. That's me. Let me be that person. Let me be your voice in Ottawa. This year, vote Walter Hoffman. God bless Milton, and thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Thank you for keeping to time. You know, I'm not the best with time, so it's always great to see how folks can keep to 2-3 minutes. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So we've learned a little bit about yourselves and, you know, kind of why you're running and what you would do. Now we'd like to turn it over to the audience for some questions. I'm sure we have some questions from online, but before we do any of those questions online, let's do the people who are here in person. It seems like there's a question from one of the community leaders. So if you have any questions, just line up behind the mic and we'll take you in that order. Remember, questions are the best way to hear what's in the mind of the people who just spoke.
Je dis merci à tout le monde d'être là. Thank you for your presence because we need to hear them. We want to run, but what happened is that when they get elected, we forget everything that they say during the campaign. Here, since all of them talk, we never mention art and culture. Me, I work in cultural field. I have a non-profit cultural organization. We struggle to get funding. It's difficult to organize our event, our festival. You ask the city, they give you 5,000. Can organize the festival with 5,000? So my question is, what are you going to do for cultural activity, for organization, cultural organization, and also, are you willing to fight for funding for cultural organizations like us? Thank you.
Anyone like to have a stab? Okay, Adam first.
Merci, Jean. Premièrement, je suis très, très heureux d'être ici avec vous aujourd'hui, ce soir, et merci pour votre question. Premièrement, j'ai l'occasion d'assister à votre événement pour les derniers 5 ans et c'est extraordinaire. C'est une extraordinaire exposition de culture, des arts et des musiques d'Afrique. Merci pour votre leadership et l'esprit entrepreneurial. So to Jean, I want to just thank him for his leadership here in Milton. As a Côte d'Ivoirian, Jean has been an extraordinary leader in ensuring that the African culture and multiculturalism is vibrant at our summer festivals. And the Liberal Party has a very consistent track record with making sure that Canada's multiculturalism, as enshrined in our charter, as enshrined in our Constitution, is upheld, promoted, and maintained, because that is who we are as Canada. And if I could, I would just say that when certain parties suggest they will defund the CBC and defund our cultural organizations that rely on CBC funding, they are making specific and surgical attacks on our ability to promote what is uniquely Canadian, tell our stories, like stories like Little Mosque on the Prairie, or Degrassi, or Schitt's Creek, or whatever show you love to watch or hear or listen. I competed for Canada at 4 Olympic Games, and those sports were always free to watch on TV. When I was a kid, that's how I got inspired, and then when I made the team, that's how I got to tell my story as a Canadian Olympian. I'll always stand up to make sure that Canadian stories and the issue of multiculturalism is top of mind here in Canada, so that we continue to promote who we are. Merci, Jean.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
So thank you for asking that question. We have to recognize that there is systemic racism, and also the cultural organizations like ACC or Halton Black Voices or CCAH are underfunded. There are no funds. So if I'm giving an opportunity, I will fight for more funding. I will make sure that not only the cultural organizations get the funding, but also the proper educational funding is available to nurture the youth in the community. So that's my promise. So to answer that question, that's what I'm going to do. Thank you very much.
Bonjour Jean, merci. Je suis désolée, mon français est mal, so I'm going to answer in English. Okay. I've also attended your festival. Thank you very much. We know how much work goes into organizing these types of things. They don't just happen. People put a lot of effort and time and sometimes their own money into bringing these events to Miltonians, to Canadians. And you've heard Canada referred to as a mosaic, right? We're not a melting pot like the US. We're a mosaic. We're all Canadian, but we're able to retain a lot of our own identity that we bring from wherever we came from. I'm the child of an immigrant who came from Italy, and I have my biscotti and my espresso, and I have an identity that I bring forward, but I'm Canadian first, right? So it's important that we're able to maintain that mosaic. That's who we are as Canadians. As Adam said, it's enshrined in our Constitution. I think when you ask about funding, there is funding available. You have to write these complex grants, and then you get some money towards the event you're trying to put on. There's funding at the federal level. There's provincial funding. There's also municipal funding. But I will be realistic. There's a limit to what governments have to give, right? I mean, there's a lot of people asking for a lot of stuff. I'm on the board of a nonprofit that's trying to build a palliative care hospice so that people who are dying have the option of doing so in a palliative care setting. And the amount of money that's available to us from government funding is extremely small, and we kick and fight for it. And we're providing a healthcare service that actually relieves a lot of burden from hospitals, for example. Like dollar for dollar, it's actually more value, and even that is very difficult for us to get funding for. So I totally understand where you're coming from. I'm not going to sit here and promise you that I'm going to be able to get you funding, but as far as that advocacy piece I mentioned in my opening remarks, those are the types of things that we bring forward when we're elected, right? We have constituents who want to see more cultural investment in their community so we can continue to maintain that Canadian mosaic that's so important to us. And that's the representation that I'll promise to bring forward. Whether or not I can get you money is another story, okay? So don't hold me to that. Thanks.
Yeah. I think that there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to accommodate what is being requested here tonight and what is being advocated. when we look at the way we spend money, this is a key issue in Canada. We're looking at sending, what, $50 billion or $5 billion over to the Ukrainian war that you can agree or disagree with, but that's not what Canada is about. We can send money for all sorts of causes that, increase the sexualization of our kids. Instead of teaching them, we're indoctrinating them, and the money that goes in there is obscene. We're spending money on causes and for issues that are not the Canadian way. They don't reflect the Canadian tradition, the Canadian Judeo-Christian upbringing that we were founded upon. And the point that Christina made is very, very real, that there is, we are approaching almost a point of identity crisis here in Canada. And there's nothing I embrace more than people who come here from all over the world, as they should. We came here as a family from Holland and in 1957, and back then it was called the Land of Opportunity. And that was so attractive. Yeah, my mom and dad and 4 children all moved here, and it was indeed a land of opportunity. And we don't want to change that. There's no reason at all why that should change, unless we start spending money and throwing it around for all sorts of causes that are not Canadian. And then, yes, Canadians are going to suffer. You're not going to get the funding that you want. And it's true, we can't promise you these funds because we don't know where the budget is going to be designated in the months and years ahead. So let's keep these things in mind, that people who come here and embrace the Canadian way and love their culture and have a heritage, let's not ask them to forget that. There's no reason why that should have to be done. We want to embrace that. It enriches Canada. And so we embrace that, but we need to get our spending and our expenditures in Canada properly in order, and that would be my
5 seconds left.
To the conversation.
Thank you. I think we had one more response, and then we'll move on to the next question.
All right, so here's the thing. We do have policies in place. So yes, there are some genuine concerns, but it all comes down to advocating. That's the reason why I'm running independent, because when you are with the party, you have to deal with the party politics within it. And I can clearly see why, right? So you have to keep in mind that party, sometimes you have to toe that line. But as an independent, you say what needs to be said. And you don't have to worry about any political party's agenda or political party's politics within it, right? So to answer your question, I do believe that is doable. All you need is advocating. So if I'm in there, rest assured, one of my work is that I'm a legal counsel as well. So I represent people, and this is the best thing that I do, right? So if it comes down to it, we're gonna stretch it to as far as we can. So be hopeful.
Thank you. We have some questions. I'll say one one more before we go online.
Yeah. Thank you so much. My question is about Play Park. I found out that for the new house built, I think we have to travel to go to Play Parks. So I'm just wondering, when these houses are being planned, are young families not considered? So why are not Play Parks in most of our houses? Because where I live, in fact, I've given up. So we don't have the Play Parks. So why? That's the question I'm trying to ask. Also to Mr. Adams, what will you do different if you're elected?
If I could, can I start with that? Just because I'm a municipal councillor, and really the question you're asking is really under the jurisdiction of municipalities. You're talking about playgrounds and park space. So the province mandates municipalities with the amount of housing they have to build, how many units they have to build, right? And they tell the municipality, we don't care what form it takes, you just have to be able to accommodate this number of residences. So we all know how expensive land is. Land is at a premium. And so you're seeing more municipalities do higher density housing. So that's where you see more condominiums, high rises, and that sort of thing. And you're seeing them in Milton, right? You know, Milton's destiny, folks, whether you like it or not, is to continue to grow. We're on the 401. We're close to a major metropolis in Toronto. And the province has told us what we have to build, and we have to choose how we're going to build it. So with that, you end up with services that need to be provided as well, right? You need to have schools, you need to have infrastructure, you need to have transit, and park space is something that we talk about a lot at council. And what we do is we usually negotiate with builders to make sure that they dedicate certain space to parkland, and there's different levy structures and things like that, that when people buy a house, part of that purchase price goes towards dedicated park space, for example. So if you're looking for more parkland and park space, it's important to talk to your municipal councillors about that, because that happens at the planning phase when development applications come forward. Planners and councillors can negotiate with the builder when they're building a neighborhood and say, hey, we want more park space. And we do that very often in Milton. We ask for more park space a lot. We want more green and less asphalt. Okay?
So before we go, yes. So one more before online, but we're gonna try and keep, just because of time, keep it to about a minute and a half max for responses.
Thanks. So first, just to address the initial question around play, I'm really proud of a program that I brought forward. It's brand new to Canada, because the federal government's never really gotten involved in funding community sport. But in the last 3 years, the federal government has invested $75 million into community sport, because we recognize that it's good for kids' mental health, their physical health, our community well-being, as well as our public safety. Because when you give particularly young men an opportunity to play, have a mentor, learn a new sport, and to be physically active, they tend to be less burdensome on the judicial system. Let's put it that way. I was a community housing kid. I got into lots of trouble after school until I found the canoe club. My mom sent me down to the canoe club. The trouble stopped, and I started winning Olympic medals. It was a good outcome. So we wanted to make sure that happened for more kids, and I'm happy to say that over 1 million children in Canada were more active because of the Community Sport for All initiative. So one of the things that I'm going to do more of is, instead of making that a $75 million program, I would like to see sport, all told, be $1 billion endeavor in Canada. And we're going to bring more money in from the private sector, more money up from the public sector. We're going to inspire our communities to invest more in physical education, physical opportunities, play-based learning in schools, in communities, all over our society, because when Canadians play, our whole country wins. It's a really good question. Thanks.
Yeah, as we all know, like, sports are the most important, like, in the life of kids. And as Adam and Christine said, you know, it is at the planning level that we need to, like, you know, put more stress on. And that is where, you know, I would say, like, NDP is the political party who would take care of the common people instead of the big corporations. So if you are keeping the interest of the corporations at the forefront, then at the, you know, at the end of the, you know, pipe, you would find these issues. So I would say, you know, this is really important, that we need to like really bring our kids to the park, and that would keep them away from so many troubles. But it should start at the very, very start, like very, very big level, at the planning level. Thank you so much for the question.
I'm just going to throw it in there really quickly, right? It would take me a few seconds. So going back to your first question, did you see advocating works? Like Adam did it, got the thing, same goes to you. You need it needs advocating, and that's all that matters.
I remember when I was a kid, I'd leave, you know, we'd do chores on Saturday morning till about 10 o'clock, and then I'd be gone. I'd be down at the schoolyard, I'd be playing baseball, and then football, and then doing whatever we do. Then we go down to the swamp, and we get on our rafts, and we catch frogs and all kinds of muskrats, and we had great fun, and I'd be home 6 or 7 o'clock at night. We had no cell phones. The police was never called. I never went home, and my mother said, don't you ever do that again, or don't you know there's terrible people out there? And today, it's a different world that we live in. To let your kid out 10 o'clock Saturday morning and see him come home at 7 o'clock Saturday night, that just does not happen today. How many would be happy to do that? Not one of us. But we need to get back to that. I mean, that is a big stretch. However, when we talk about sports and letting kids play, you know what? We never had a lot of equipment when we were kids, but we had a baseball field, we had a football field, and we had so much fun. I have great memories of being a child, and so I'd like to see us deal more with the crime issue and clean up our city again and make it safe for kids to go out all day and say, Mom, I'll be home in 10 hours. Yeah.
So we're going to just take the last response. Okay, awesome. And then we'll do one question before we do online, and I think we'll be able to wrap up.
Very quickly, thank you, Lady Abba, for putting this together. Fantastic job. Always impressive, everything that you do. I have to leave based on that question. I got to bring my kid to a park to play some flag football, so I am 4 minutes late. Quick question. What everybody here is asking, straight to the point, what are you guys doing for the black community in your riding?
Okay, I saw the first hand here. So I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4.
So thank you for asking that question. That's a very important question.
1 minute starts now.
Okay. So as I said, as a member of the Human Rights Equity Advisory Committee, I work with lots of families, and many of them are black. And I see what is happening with the systemic racism, with the underrepresentation by the black community. So I have made a pledge to myself that if I am there in the parliament, I am going to fight for equal rights for everyone. I'm going to fight for more funding for the cultural organizations like ACC, Art and Black Voices, or CCH, and all these organizations, together with other community members that need the funding. Also, I am going to become your voice. I am going to make sure that the youth leadership mentoring programs are in place to keep the kids off the street, because as long as we keep putting parties in the power of decision making, where they have the buddies in the construction industries, it's not going to be done. It's not going to be done when they sell out the land to their buddies. So we have to vote wisely in this coming election. Thank you.
Next. Thank you.
So this is a interesting question, and in the last 10 years, I guess, it's really echoed all over the place, not just with the black community, but with everybody. I don't know about you, but when I look out into this audience, I don't see black people per se. I see Canadians. I see Canadians, okay? Yeah. Unfortunately, our current government has created a system of tribalism where they become the ringmaster of orchestrating who gets funding, who gets attention, according to the way they vote or support them. And this is all wrong, right? We're not supporting a party, we're supporting the people. So I say that all Canadians should be banded together and as one, as Canadians, and not be separate and apart and try to pit one against the other for funding or attention, right? We are one nation and we are one people.
5 seconds left.
All right? My mother and father came here from Hungary, and we were separate and apart. We were treated with prejudice as well too, but we persevered and we are now immersed in the Canadian culture. Amen.
Thank you.
I'm going to lead with a quick story that some of you may have heard about my Uncle Albert, who runs an incredible Jamaican food restaurant in Toronto. He came from Jamaica. He had been a chef at a resort. He met my aunt. They got married. He came to Toronto, and he is a true Canadian success story. And I learned very on what the potential is of people from the black community. And he's been a great inspiration to me and to other people in my family. Thank you for the question. So I think the black community knows what it needs more than I do. So my job is to listen, learn, and then advocate. You see a common theme in my answers, right? It's about representation and advocacy. I'm not here to tell you what you need. You tell me what you need. My job is to take it to Ottawa and try to get you what you need. Thank you.
So I think.
No, you can go first. Okay. Go ahead. No, go ahead. Please go ahead. So thanks for the question, Sheldon. In a sentence, I'm going to show up. But to expand on that, I want to elevate the voices and the work of exceptional black Canadians here in Milton and Burlington and provide them with an opportunity to be showcased and to be heard at a higher level. working with you at CCH and with Adejisola and ACCH and all the other black serving community organizations here. I think we've been successful in that in the last 5.5 years, but we can do a lot more. But to build off a previous answer, you guys know Ismail Hassan. He's the local guy that runs Dribble Dreams. Well, Dribble Dreams was one of the free basketball programs that applied for the Community Sport for All initiative. So he's one of those contributing members to the million more active Canadian youth. But when it comes down to it, we have to acknowledge that we have a diverse society, and that is a huge strength, not a weakness. We got to make sure that we're including everybody in every decision, and that's an act of inclusion. Diversity is a fact. Inclusion is an act. And the outcome that we want to see is equity. Not equity in inputs, but equity in outcomes. And only then will we see justice.
Thank you very much. Happy Palm Sunday, everybody.
So before the next question, we're just going to have 2 more responses, and then we have a question from online, and I think that should be it. I know candidate mentioned that they had to leave at 8:15, so just being respectful for their time.
It's a very valid question. I'm glad you asked it. I did a little bit of research on this, and I found that there was an organization, SBCCI, supporting Black Canadian Communities Initiative. There's another one, National Institute for People of African Descent. There's the Black Justice Strategy, the Black History Month, organized by OBHS. There's the CCLA, and of course the CMHC. There are organizations in place now. They just need to work together more. There's a lot of money. There's millions of dollars. You might not even be aware of many of these, but they are there. And Canada is a place where we should be looking after people's needs, because when you come out and ask questions like this and say, what are you going to do for us? We need help here. We should be listening. That's what government's for. That's why when you elect somebody, those people need to listen up and say, okay, I'm going to represent you in Ottawa. I'm going to take that need. It's not about how much I agree or disagree with what you're saying. It has largely to do with you voted for me, you put me in office, I have an obligation to represent you in Ottawa, and that's what we'll do. Thank you.
Okay, so our last response before our next question, and we're going to be more quick with this last question, just so we have.
So here's what I think the process should be like. If we don't have one advisory already, we should have one on a bigger scale. All right, and this is how you communicate with whoever is in charge. So that way we can tackle any issues, challenges, because they're not constant anymore. They're fluid and they're ever changing, as we all know. So this is what I would recommend to do. So have advisory on different areas and have that connected with your MP. So let's say if it's me, I will reach out to you and ask you more often than not that what's going on. Like say once a month, once every 2 months, to see what are the challenges now. Because we're not in times where you only had one concern, which it used to be 10 years ago. Now, every 6 months, there's a different concern, because time is fast. So keeping that in mind, the best way to go ahead is to have an advisory and connect it with whoever's in charge and get that done.
Left.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for all the responses. Question from online. This question is coming from Ms. Nene Akinton, who is the board vice chair for the Canadian Black Chamber and a chair for some nonprofit foundation, Oakville Living, with her daughter. The question is, what plans, and I think it's in line with the mandate for the federal government and your roles, what plans do each of you have to reduce the cost of housing in Canada? I know this is a pressing topic. We want to limit it to, maybe 3 or 4 people, but if everyone, wants to have that stab at it, open to it. So what would you do? I see the first hand. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Yes, sir.
So the elephant in the room, affordability. Why is it unaffordable today? There's many reasons for it. We can blame the current government and greed and other things as well too, but in my view, it's taxation. Canada is overtaxed. You're taxed on everything. Now, in my view, this needs to be completely pared down so that we'll do that by shrinking the government and the bureaucracy and spending the money more wisely on core things that people actually need and not just want. or on ideologically driven things that have no return on investment. It's just blown into the wind, okay? So if we get government more out of the way, you get more money in your pockets. And that means everything is going to be more affordable. Your food, your fuel, your house. This is we are at a precipice right now.
5 seconds left.
If we continue down this road, your children are not going to be able to get the same things that we had. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would start by saying beware a politician that says they want a smaller government, because a smaller government has fewer institutions and a politician then has more power. I don't want more power. I don't want more influence. I want to have an impact, and I want to build institutions in Canada that make a real difference. One of those institutions that unfortunately got ruined in 1994 was a project that built a lot of non-market housing. And that was ended by federal governments and then subsequently by provincial governments in Canada. And since then, the market has built all of the housing in Canada. Only developers. Government got out of the way of building non-market housing like the housing that I grew up at, the Federal Co-op and Chautauqua Co-op in Oakville. And since then, we've only had developers. And they've used scarcity as a tactic to ensure that there just isn't quite enough housing so that the prices go up. We're going to end that. And I've got a track record on this. I brought $1.5 billion forward in budget 2022, which has now built 3,500 new non-market units across the country. I want to scale that up 10x. I want to ask the Minister of Finance to spend $15 billion on housing, build 40,000 non-market housing units, and bring back Canada into building housing that Canadians can afford, because the market's not doing it for us.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to address it like this, very simple and pure. It's economics 101. More supply, less demand, what happens? When you have more demand, less supply, what happens? So all this immigration that we're good with has been relocated, or rather immigrated to this, most of in Ontario. So if you do not have a plan to relocate a lot of new immigrants all over Canada, you are gonna experience expensive housing. That's just how it works. So what needs to happen is have more policies in place where you are relocating them into different provinces, which not only will grow your economy, but also help you to afford housing. And that's what really needs to happen. I mean, we can go with...
5 seconds left.
How many? Oh, go ahead.
I agree with the point that Shabazz is making. If I were to come to your house and say, I have 30 friends that don't have any place to stay, can I just bring them here and would you look after them for 5 years? How many would go for that? No, that is just so unreasonable. And I think that the incredible rise in housing market now is because of mass immigration. Not immigration, but mass immigration. We're bringing way too many people into the country, and we're not doing them any favors. If you bring 20 or 30 people into your house, you're not doing them any favors by giving them a roof over their head. In no time at all, the washroom's going to be plugged up, the house is going to be a mess, you're going to run out of food, and it's the same thing with the country. And so we need to reduce mass immigration, and the PPC policy will be to put a moratorium on immigration for the first 2 years until we find our balance again, and that we can properly allocate and bring down the price of housing. And I think that's a solution.
Okay, awesome. I know we have 8:15. One of the candidates mentioned that they had some time. I'm not sure if they want to remain or if they want to stay. We have one last question. We have 2 last questions and 3 last questions. Okay, awesome. And then we will go from there. So
should I go ahead?
Please go ahead.
Okay. So my question is very simple. When I look around Milton, I see so many condos. I see so many houses being built. And I hear you. You know, we're talking about this lots of money, billions of money that is going to go into housing. But growing up and looking around Canada, we talk about mental health. We talk about, our children, taking up cultures, taking up things that don't really represent the way we grew up, or maybe don't really represent how we want them to be. We hear about suicides and so many things like that. And my question is, have you thought about faith-based institutions? Where are the allocations for them? Why is our land all being taken by condos, housing? How would the young ones move through the street and see, institutions that trained us, that helped us to become, that shapes people to become who we are. I know there's a lot of money going to not-for-profit for mental health, but growing up as a child, my mental health was really faith-built, and it kept me strong till this day. So I just want to ask, in this midst of housing, where are the allocations for faith-based institutions?
So we're going to keep the response to just two people. The first two people that put up their hand, I'll let go. Okay, Adam, go ahead.
It's a great question, and I think, if we're looking at this from a federal perspective, like all of us are running in the federal government, it really is, it comes down to municipal planning. And, because I've never had a look at a municipal plan as a member of parliament for 5.5 years, and I'll guarantee, no matter who wins the federal election, none of us will be looking at a town or a city plan, because it's not part of the job. But we do have funding for security. At the federal level, the Liberal government has invested in a security program so that faith-based institutions, mosques, churches, temples, synagogues are all safe places. So that if they require a police officer on site, if they require cameras or a security system, we've invested heavily in that, and that's the federal jurisdiction.
Anybody else?
No? I think I'm going to address it in a very different way. I do hear what she's saying, and I appreciate that question. I'm going to give it a little different turn to it. It is a valid question, and I'm going to cross over a bit more. So I'm going to bring MAID, for example, medical assistance in dying. That has been recommended to people. It was originally people who were having a sickness, but now people who are having a mental illness are recommended that too. So it's a valid question. Like, is that what we are becoming? Like, we're not gonna address that at all. So if anybody that gets sick or has a mental issue, we're just gonna recommend MAID, which is medical assistant dying, and it is very parallel to the question that you asked. So again, I do realize that we are running for federal level, but leadership is not about just answering at a federal level. I think it has to take place on all levels. So thank you for asking this. And I could do more research and get back to you where else we can tackle this.
Maybe on the next question. Awesome.
Thank you, Christina. A round of applause for the only woman who stepped up on the panel.
Yes, okay.
So this is a very pertinent question, especially since the COVID epidemic that happened. We have a national crisis of mental health, especially amongst our youth. And the question is why? Why, right? So, during that whole pandemic and the way it was handled and orchestrated by the federal government, mental health soared, culminating in record suicides. It was crazy things. I had daughters in high school, and going to the high school and just entering the place, it was like a prison. My own daughter was affected by this as well too. So a lot of this mental health thing is being caused by policy. We need to take a look at that seriously because we're harming our children. In the Bible it says, better to put a millstone around your neck and jump into the ocean than harm your children. And if you send me there, I'll make sure our children are safe.
Awesome. So 2 more questions, and that will be it. If you're not here, there's no more questions, and we'll round up from there. So yes, please ask your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm asking this question first to you, because you mentioned Maplehurst. So I've had to work in a prison before, and I did see, and if you pay attention to CP24 as well, you'll notice that the age gap between 16 and 25, we have a lot of young folks going into crime and getting into prison. I think something is wrong somewhere. At 16, 17, getting involved into terrible things and getting into prison. So what would you be doing to address this issue when our kids are getting involved? They can't even grow normally. They're getting involved in crime, and then they're finding their way into prisons and criminal records forever. So what will you be doing specifically to address the kids and their education or whatever it is that will make them stay out of prisons, stay out of crime? Thank you.
That's a fabulous question, and one that's really close to my heart. If we back up a little bit, when I was a child, I remember being in public school and they would say, Walter, would you please come to the office? You ever had that? Yeah, okay. Come to the office. And the first time they did it, I was scared, but they said, would you please lead us in a word of prayer and read the Bible? And you know what? Since those days, I don't know what happened, but they've taken prayers out of the school. They've taken Bible reading out of the school. And they don't want happy Merry Christmas anymore in civic buildings. They want happy holidays. Right now there's a move on, you've probably read about it, that they want to take the tax-exempt status away from any faith-based organization that does not support abortion. So even this church, if that legislation goes through, then if you don't support abortion and you don't get behind it, and you're a pro-life organization, you stand to lose your tax-exempt status. So there's a move against the Christian faith, and there's a move against faith in general, and that needs to be brought back. You know, when you leave children to grow up without any belief in God and not any moral system that they can fall back on, then this is the kind of thing that happens, and all in one generation this occurred. So let's look at some of these things again and support the churches instead of coming against them. Thank you.
So we have, yes, Adam, please go ahead. We have one and then.
Thank you. I would like to address my colleague's answer first. In Ontario, we have a publicly funded Catholic school system. I attended it for my entire school. We said Merry Christmas. There's no fight on Merry Christmas. Nobody is demanding that we say Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas. I'm sorry, that's just not accurate. In addition, the misinformation that my colleague just shared with respect to any plan to remove funding or the tax-exempt status for faith-based organizations is also misinformation. No plan to do that. There is one organization called a Crisis Pregnancy Center that says they're providing healthcare services when they're actually not, and they're being investigated for the misinformation that they're providing. We need to be honest to our constituents. We can't spread misinformation in order to get elected. So there's a website, and we all know there's a lot of stuff online that's misinformation. But it's not in our party platform, and it's not something that I intend to promote or do if I'm reelected as your member of parliament. You can trust me.
So,
can I go?
Before we go, we have one last one. I just want us to remember some of the statements I mentioned earlier. Not a boxing match. We're not doing any wrestling. So straight to the point. No attack on individuals. Just address the issue.
Another great question. Okay, so why the rise in crime, especially amongst our youth? You know, our youth have always been energetic and adventurous, and sometimes they got in trouble. I did too. Who didn't? Okay? But, you know, the federal government has now reduced the consequence of bad actions. You know, they've changed the criminality so that if you have these young people who are sucked into these gangs that are rampant now across the country, they're not afraid anymore because there is no consequence, right? They go immediately to bail, right? And they laugh. They laugh at the judge. The police are exasperated because they keep arresting the same people all the time, right? And of course, other people that come into the fray, right, they say, oh, well, little Johnny's making a fortune there doing whatever he's doing. He doesn't ever get in trouble because he's too young. And of course, you know, he's sucked into this life of crime, right? Once again, this is driven by bad policy. Bad policy. This is not misinformation. This is the fruit of bad policy. That needs to change, and if I go there, there will be consequence for crime.
Time.
And the youth will be deterred from going into crime.
It's tough. I would love to, really and truly. Just because of time, we have one more question, and we'd love for folks to also answer as well. So let's do 30 seconds, and I will be firm on the 30 seconds. So your 30 seconds starts now.
So I think the question was why specific communities struggling that. Am I right? Was that the question? So here's the truth. It's neglect. And there's a lot more that could be done for that particular or any community, which is not being done. And that's actually what leads to the answer that why particularly 16, 17-year-olds are actually facing that. So if there's more
5 seconds left.
money invested into it, into the programs, it will take care of that. And this
Time.
is what needs to happen.
So great question. The problem can be solved if we have more funding for the cultural organizations like this, where we can keep the youth off the street and involve them in meaningful stuff, like working for the community and getting involved with the cultural programs, so that they feel feel like they're contributing something. So that's
5 seconds left.
That's the thing.
Last question, but not the least.
All right, my name is Ayo, and I'm representing Council of African Professionals. So my question is centered around policing, all right? And I know this is a shared responsibility between the provincial government and the federal. But if you have done your findings and research so well, it looks like our community is a target when it comes to police matters. And I want to know what you're going to do differently to get us more safe, more secure, especially our children. They get missing, they're killed, and a lot of things happen from one location to the other as a result of, should I say, bad policing? So what will you be doing to get our community more protected, our community more protected?
Thank you for the question. Appreciate it. We have 2 I saw, and we'll take 2 as well. So you can start.
So thank you for asking that question. It actually is a genuine concern. And what needs to happen, there has to be a policy at federal level, which is a mandatory training for the police. And it is indeed has to happen because it is the way you couldn't have said it any better. It does happen, it is a fact, and policies have to be placed to reduce this profiling, if you will.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think underrepresentation is the key problem. And we need more representation because right now it's completely disproportionate representation in the police force. Second thing is we need to have people in the decision-making places where they are not like fear mongers. It's a federal election, but I'm seeing some candidates from a specific party where they come out and they're talking about keeping the people in the prison for a long time. They're just fear mongering. So we don't need people who are dividing the society. We need people who are transparent, more accountable. Those are the people we want to elect.
Please, audience, just a reminder that we're trying to pay attention here. Thank you. Yes.
In order to tackle a problem like systemic racism, you have to have the courage to call it out and say that there is systemic racism in society and that people are treated differently on the basis of their color, the color of their skin. And that's a problem. And in order to achieve better outcomes and equity and justice for everyone, we need to acknowledge first that systemic racism is real, and the over-incarceration of Black and Indigenous people in prisons is a result of that systemic racism. So I will continue to work with community-based organizations. The federal government has invested money with a few Black community serving organizations to ensure that there's better representation at policing and that they receive the training necessary to remove their bias, acknowledge their bias, and treat everybody equally.
One last question. I think we have one last question, but yes, you can go, sir.
I hope I'm not focusing too much on my faith, but you know what? The Bible clearly tells us that there were 6 days of creation, and only on one of those days did God create anything in his image. And that's when he created Adam, and later on he created Eve. And it says clearly that they are created in his image. The first commandment is to love God. The second is to love one another. I don't know how we're going to eradicate racism until we see one another as being creations equal under God, all of us, every one of us, regardless of color or economics or anything else, that we are created in the image of God equally together. And when we have that ingrained in our hearts, we will see an erasure of racism that will never come back again.
5 seconds left.
So let's pray that way, okay?
Well said.
Awesome. So thank you again for all the responses today. We have one last question and we'll wrap it up for the day. Again, I want to appreciate all the candidates that are here, those who are running. I think it's from a leadership perspective, being involved in the community. Sometimes they say showing up is half the work. And if you don't show up, I think it sends a strong message. So I really appreciate you for all being here, and we don't take your presence for granted.
Thank you so much. I actually got a question sent to me, but before I talk about it, I do want to appreciate every one of you. So just for the information for everybody sitting here, we do have the Liberal candidates show up. We have the NDP, we have the PPC, and we have independent candidate show up today. So thank you so much for doing that. Now to the question. Immigration has been a massive influx of a particular nation, with them in so many levels and organizations. It has become increasingly difficult for other communities or national to get jobs. What is your plan to mitigate this and ensure a level playing field for everyone who qualifies to get a job? Now, I highlighted a little bit on it, crime in our community. There's crime in our community, home invasion, car thefts. A lot of us experienced it. What are you going to do about it? Thank you.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we might give everybody a stab if you want. This is the last question, so please go ahead.
Once again, you know, this is a new phenomenon that's happened in the last 10 years. It's been increasing and increasing. Under the, you know, the Liberal government, crime has gone up 500%. That's not a coincidence, right? There's cause and effect, and that's not misinformation. Unfortunately, it's bad policy again, right? But we are living this reality now in my own neighborhood. We've had cars stolen, home invasions, people have gotten hurt, okay? The police are reactive, and they're never there on time. They can't deter it because they can't be omnipresent. Unfortunately, our laws hamstrings the potential victim. You don't have the right to self-defense. You know, as much as they say it, you try to do
5
that,
seconds left.
You'll be in court. So the PPC wants to enable the first responder to any crime, and that would be you.
I'll take the last one. I need 10 more seconds, that's right.
So thank you for asking that question. Again, the reason is overcrowding of the cities, because the solutions are cap on the immigration, redistribution of the population, and creating programs, funding the programs where we can actually give them incentives to move to places to find more opportunities. So those are the things that the government needs to invest the funding in. And also, we need to have more programs to engage the people who don't have the job so that they can become employable more. So the crime can go down. That's what we need to do.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'm going to go last, so go ahead.
So first and foremost, I'll never blame immigration for crime, because we are not in traffic right now with respect to immigration. We are traffic. Every single one of us is an immigrant, whether we arrived at the party 5 minutes ago, 2 hours ago, 1 generation ago, or 3 generations ago. We all have a role to play in that. I will say that the first ever time when the provinces underfunded the universities and colleges, the colleges and universities abused the international student program and vastly increased their numbers so they could pay their bills. Colleges and universities in Canada are an institution. They need government support, but when they don't get government support, they rely on international students. And they come and they pay $10,000 and $15,000 a year in tuition, and that's how they were doing that. Last year, the Prime Minister in September said, the party's fun, but the music's too loud. We're turning down the volume on immigration. Immigration in Canada is a gold standard. We need to make sure it satisfies a lot of aspects of our economy, but the immigration numbers have already come down, and we've seen the impact already.
5 seconds left.
We are going to continue to make sure that the jobs that we need are filled by immigrants, but express entry is the gold standard around the world. It's how the vast majority of us arrived here.
Time.
Is that the last question? Like, we're wrapping it after this?
Last question, wrapping it up.
Okay, all right. So I just got to get it for this.
1 minute.
Okay.
Starts
So here's the thing.
now.
Here's what needs to happen, right? Nobody's really questioning the immigration here. What we are really questioning is you're bringing everything into one melting pot. That's gonna overburden your healthcare infrastructure. Any public, institution you see is gonna happen. So what needs to happen, what I want to do is repeal, review, or propose any bill that does not support, relocating new immigration to different places. We have to grow our economy. You have to invest into different provinces. That's the only way we're gonna be able to do that. And when I hear subsidy, that means we're getting taxed. So we're not really looking to do subsidies. What we're really looking to do is, have this immigration all over the place and balance it, because we have such a landmass. So why everything has to be relocated in Ontario? How come, one particular government being in power doesn't do anything in different regions? This is why we have trade wars. This is why we have tariffs. We're not able to sustain that, right? So there we go. That's what needs to happen.
So I want to thank, before we head out, I want to thank all of the candidates who were here today. Audience, can we please give all of them a round of applause? It takes a lot to throw your hat in the ring. There's this famous saying that, it's not the man or woman who talks, but it's about the man or woman who's in the ring, who's fighting, who gets punched. And we saw some virtual punches here today. I'm glad it steamed down a little bit. But the fact that all of these men are here today and are taking time out of their schedules, showing up, is something amazing. And let's not take for granted they're coming to our community and sharing their plans and sharing their support. Remember, this exercise was to get to know them a little bit more, learn about what their ideas are, and they obviously wanted to get some of your support. So just remember, elections is April 28th, right? So do more research on the candidates. Look them up, go online. The ones who are here, research them, find out what are they really about, and then make an educated decision and go vote, later on this month. And with that being said, one last round of applause before I call up Pastor Olumide.
Because you mentioned that the election is the 28th, but you can vote on the weekend, and I always encourage people to vote early, because anything could happen on the 28th. So please go out and vote on the 18th, 19th, 20th, or 21st. Advanced polling is open. The lineups are shorter. It's way more convenient. Please, regardless of who you're going to go vote for, vote next weekend, over Easter weekend, at your convenience. Don't wait until the 28th.
Thank you. So early voting. So with that being said, we want to thank again everybody for coming. And please, I would like to call up Pastor Demidoun for closing remarks. Rounds of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. Really appreciate it. Just before I go, I just want to be sure I heard correctly. You said in response to crime, you want to empower, you want to make us the first responder. Does that mean that you want to you are advocating for us to be carrying arms? You have a God-given right to defend yourself. So no, I don't. Are you advocating that individuals should be carrying arms? No, that's what I'm asking. I want clarification when you said you want us to be first defender. What does that mean?
It means when somebody comes into your home, right, and they're armed, how do you repel them if you're not armed with something?
So you want us to be armed to defend ourselves?
If you want to arm yourself,
Okay.
go ahead.
So, okay.
If you don't, then suffer the consequences, and people are.
Okay. So, like I said, I just want to be, I don't want to advocate for any party, but I just want to be clear on that. So, anyway, without saying much, we like to thank pretty much Sorry, I need everybody's attention, please. We thank the people that showed up means that they value our community. If you don't show up for us, I don't expect us to show up for them. So I believe Green Party and Conservative, that was the PC, they did not show up. They probably tell us our vote doesn't matter to them. So that's what I'm saying. So you have choice to choose the candidate out here, and we have to begin to know that your voice and your vote matters. And if you don't come to listen to us, our concern, how are you going to even resolve it? Christy said, we have the one that we say, this is our problem. And if you show up now, you win election, you should show up again, election is going to come. It's not always 4 years. 2 years ago, we had one. So 2 years. So after this, the people that show up here, we have choice to make. I'm not advocating for any party, but our choice is between the people that show up here. Because they're telling us that our voice matters. And we need to begin to send message that our voice indeed matters. If you don't come to us, if you don't need our vote, we will not give you our vote. It's as simple as that. So I thank everybody. I thank for everything. I thank you for everything you do. And like I always say, don't just make it an election time. You have to, show up more, even when there's no election. So how are you guys doing? That can let people know you. I don't want to mention names, so I won't kind of endorse anybody. I know there's a candidate that does it a lot. He visits us a lot. That, hey, how are you guys doing? That kind of thing. So show up more. Like you said, we are all Canadians. It doesn't matter where you come from. When we are here, the melting pot, let's embrace each other. Let's listen to each other. And the truth of the matter is we have the same problem. You may be in your own cocoon, but at the end of the day, our children go to the same school. We shop at the same place. We go to the same clinic. So we have to come and make friendship of each other. So thank you, everybody, for showing up. And the candidate, they will be at the lobby. You may have time. And I need to apologize again for the time. I need to apologize to the candidate because most of you came late anyway. So you got it. But the candidate, they came early. So I had to apologize for the time. And we have a lot of people online they're watching, so you're not just talking to us, you're talking to people online. So thank you very much. We appreciate you and wish you all the best in your election. So the only thing I'm going to ask, whoever wins, you promise to come back. Yeah. Before you go to Ottawa, you promise to come back and say, you guys, thank you. Did I get that from you? You promise to come back if you win? You promise to come back here?
I'll come even if I lose.
Oh, thank you. You promise to come back? You promise to come back?
Yes.
You promise to come back? All of you've heard them. So we are going to have this again before they move to Ottawa. We say, greet the candidate, greet the elect. So they promise to come back. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the night. Yeah, there is coffee and Timothy and African Timothy pop-off at the lobby. Yeah. And thank a lot the technical team for putting all this together, the videography, the online. We really appreciate everybody. Thank you.